You have just made one of the absolute best decisions you're ever going to make in your trading journey. You're interested in creating a trading journal. Your journal will be your navigation to learning how to trade, developing experience, and most importantly, learning about yourself. Trading is a difficult personal journey, and your journal will be that one companion that will navigate the highs and lows of the market with you. Hello, everyone. My name is S Tier Trader, and today I am going to walk you through how to make a trading journal. If you're new to my content, my channel is all about my journey to becoming a professional trader, as well as sharing advice on how you too can become a professional trader. I truly believe that the absolute first thing you should do if you're interested in trading at all is to create a trading journal. Let me give you a small glimpse into my trading journal, which started all the way back in December 2016. This was my very first journal entry. It was on ICT's What Every New Trader Wants to Know series. Look at that beautiful, inexperienced artwork that I made back then. December 2016 is actually when I first learned anything related to the markets at all. It's actually kind of wild to believe I've been doing this for 6 years now. Since this first entry, my journal has evolved and grown massively with me, with over 1,000 entries within, covering all mentorship teachings I've ever done, personal journaling, my trading models, and much more. I've had to develop excellent organizational skills to manage all of these journal entries, and today I'm going to share 6 years of journaling experience with you. I'm going to show you how to make a journal just like mine, as well as give you additional tips and tricks that I wish I did when I first started journaling. This is going to be a fairly long video, so feel free to use the timestamps if you so choose. Let's get started. My journal was created using a program called Microsoft OneNote. While there are other options that you could use, and I'm sure that they would work out great for you, Microsoft OneNote has been nothing short of perfect for me throughout my 6 years of journaling. OneNote provides me with literally everything I've ever wanted in a journal, while also making the user experience extremely easy. I can also use it on my PC, my MacBook, and my phone. I've used OneNote nearly every day for 6 years without any issue whatsoever. And here's the kicker: the program is completely free to use. That's just wild to me. Now, my mentor, Inner Circle Trader or ICT, he's a dinosaur. So he journals in a physical notebook, and I've tried doing this myself early on. You are certainly welcome to use a physical notebook, and I'm sure a lot of this tutorial will still apply to you. However, there are numerous benefits for using an electronic journal over a physical journal, and I'm going to go over some pros and cons right now on using OneNote as your trading journal. The first major pro of using OneNote is the organization ability. My notes in my trading journal can easily be separated from notebooks to section groups to sections to tabs to entries and then multiple sub entries. This hierarchy feature that OneNote provides is so extremely useful for trading, which I'm going to show you in this tutorial. I can easily find all of my entries I've ever made, especially with some organizational tips that I'm going to share with you later on. A second major pro of using OneNote is the search function. The search function is just beautiful. The search function allows me to search for keywords or tags that I've used in my 1,000+ entries. So if you're studying ICT, you'll know that he has a ton of concepts and tools that you're going to want to study. So let's go through an example. Let's say I want to search entries where I've used the now buzzword IPDA, or Interbank Price Delivery Algorithm. I'm going to click the search tab. I'm going to type in IPDA, and voila, here are all the entries that I've ever used the word IPDA. There are a massive amount of entries where I've used this word. So let's click on a random one. This feature automatically takes me to the word IPDA in that specific entry. You'll also see that the word IPDA is highlighted in that picture as well. Now, you might be concerned that I have so many entries using the word IPDA that it might be tough for me to find a specific journal entry that I'm looking for. Well, I can actually filter where OneNote searches by clicking this drop down menu and narrowing the search. Now, I've only got 3 entries to look through. This can be organized even better with tips I'm going to share with you later on in this video. The next major pro that I've got for OneNote is actually probably my favorite feature. It's that OneNote is cloud based. I can easily access my journal anywhere in the world so long as I have a computer. It doesn't matter if I'm on my PC in my office, if I'm on my deck using my phone, or if I'm in a hammock in Mexico using my laptop. I always have access to my trading journal. My journal automatically syncs to the cloud, which means I can switch my medium in seconds with an updated journal. A frequent use case for me personally is that if I'm trading the New York session, which is quite early where I live, I'll often look at the charts on my phone in bed. I'll make some notes in my trading journal, then if price does what I wanted to see, I'll navigate to the PC in my office with my updated trading journal ready to go. And note that while OneNote is cloud based, I frequently back up my journal onto my trading hard drives just to make sure I always have a physical, non internet reliant copy ready to go. And also, one more wild note regarding the cloud storage. I must have multiple thousand screenshots I've posted into my journal. OneNote is able to pull up each one of those individual screenshots I've ever posted, including ones from 2017, like I'm showing here. It's just crazy to me that these screenshots have never been lost. Anyway, let's move on to one more pro. There can be multiple windows within the same notebook open at one time. So this is absolutely amazing for learning trading concepts. So let me walk you through an example. Let's say you've learned some new secret sauce from ICT. You've made your journal entry filled with screenshots of the video and you've taken great notes. You can now open up another window in that journal and make personal entries of using that new secret sauce tool. You can see exactly how the tool is used using the window on the left, then make notes of you applying that tool using the window on the right. There's no more flipping between pages or notebooks to reference what you've learned. This feature allows you to maximize your efficiency during your study time. Now, there are other multiple pros that I could list right now, such as video playback, file attachments, and being able to do math equations right in the notebook. However, this video will be way too long if I go into them right now. But keep in mind, perhaps the most important pro for a lot of people here is that Microsoft OneNote is completely free to use. Now, let's go on to cons, and I can literally think of only one con I've ever come up with using Microsoft OneNote, and honestly, I would just call it more so of a limitation. And it's that OneNote is just not Microsoft Excel. While you can link Excel workbooks directly into OneNote, you can't actually organize or analyze data points in OneNote itself. This can be an issue as this means you are unable to backtest in the traditional sense using OneNote. But I'm going to irk some of you guys right now. Backtesting in the traditional sense is extremely overrated and unnecessary. More on this in a future how to backtest video. But do know that there are still times where I will use Excel that impacts what I put into my trading journal. So having to use two programs to navigate this data is a slight efficiency decrease, so therefore I will label it as a con. If I've convinced you to use Microsoft OneNote as your trading journal, let's now talk about how to actually access and install OneNote on your computer. You've got a couple of methods to initially set up a OneNote journal, and for this tutorial, we're actually going to do it through the use of the web version. So the first step to setting up the OneNote journal is to create a Microsoft account. Now, I recommend that you create a separate and unique email address specifically to trading. So you're going to eventually sign up for trading services such as tradingview.com, barchart.com, more research, and now OneNote. And you're going to want to stay organized and treat your trading as a business. So I really recommend that you create an email address that is specifically for trading use only. All right, so go onto your web browser and you're going to Google Microsoft OneNote and click on the first link. Click sign up if you don't already have a Microsoft account and now create one. Next, sign in to OneNote and go through the couple simple steps in order to create your notebook. These settings aren't really important to you right now. Congratulations, you now have the beginnings of your trading journal. Now, I personally never use the web version of OneNote. Feel free to do so if you'd like. However, I strongly prefer the app versions instead. Note that your OneNote journal is synced to your account. You can access your journal through either the web version or app as long as you are signed in with your Microsoft account. Now, let's talk about actually getting the OneNote app. You can get OneNote on the Microsoft Store, on the Apple App Store, or Google Play, all for free. I'll show you how to get it on the Microsoft Store for this tutorial, and the process is going to be similar on other app stores as well. In the Windows search bar, search Microsoft Store. At the top of the store, search OneNote. Install OneNote and be sure to sign in with your account when it is done installing. Now you've got your journal you made from the web page directly onto your computer. And before we move on, I've got 3 quick notes I have to cover. First, there are currently 2 working versions of Microsoft OneNote. So there's OneNote, which used to be called OneNote 2016, and this is the one that I use on my MacBook. There is also OneNote for Windows 10, which is what I use on my PC. That version came automatically with Windows 10 computers. There are a couple different features between the 2 OneNotes. However, the biggest note that I'm sharing with you right now is that the Windows 10 version is getting phased out in October 2025. There won't be any issues with the journals transferring from the Windows 10 version to the updated OneNote version, so there's no need to be concerned about the conversion issues in the future. Alright, second quick note. The PC version of OneNote is superior to the Mac version. I use both versions nearly every single day. However, the efficiency on the PC version is just noticeably better. I can get things like dark mode on my PC, and the journal syncing is better on the PC as well. Alright, one more note. While OneNote is free of charge, you do have the option to purchase Microsoft 365. I literally have no idea what is included in the 365 version of OneNote, however. The Microsoft website states that with the free version, some features may be limited, but I have no idea what those features are. And I can tell you that the free version has given me everything that I've ever wanted in a journal. So I can't recommend getting the 365 version because I am strongly satisfied with the free version. Now let's get into the real reason why you're here. We're going to transform this notebook into your own trading journal. So, we are traders. In fact, we are going to be professional traders, and therefore we have rules. There are 2 absolutely major rules that you must follow in order to get the maximum effectiveness out of your journal. The first rule is that your journal is for your eyes only. The reason for this is simple. You must be completely honest with yourself and what you put into your journal. A trading journal is your sole companion on your personal trading journey. You must have the mindset that only you will ever be the one to see the contents within the journal in order to hold yourself accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable here. As soon as you take the mindset that somebody else is going to maybe one day see your journal, you're going to adjust the content of what actually goes into it. So, for example, let's say you take a losing trade. If you have the mindset that someone is going to see your journal, maybe you decide you're going to delete that executing journal entry. Maybe you decide you're going to delete the results of the trade, or maybe you adopt your social media persona regarding your feelings and thoughts. These are not things you want to put into your journal. Your journal is there for you to become a better trader. That's the purpose of this trading journal. The only way to become a better trader is by being honest with yourself and holding yourself accountable. Nobody else is going to do that for you. Remember, trading is a personal journey. Keeping your journal to your eyes only is the best way to leverage your companion and help you become a better trader. The second rule that you must follow is a simple one, but it can also be difficult at the same time. You must never post negative thoughts into your trading journal. We are human, and we are going to make mistakes. We are literally trying to make a living in an environment filled with the richest people and corporations in the entire freaking world. The market is specifically designed to wipe us retail traders out. You have to allow yourself to grow. With growing comes trial and error and making mistakes. If you do something you consider wrong, such as trading outside your rules based model. This doesn't mean that you're dumb or you're stupid or worthless or that you're never going to become a professional trader. It just means that you learned something about yourself. Those negative words have no place in your journal. As soon as you start entering those negative words into your journal, your mind will begin to believe those thoughts. Rather than providing opportunities for growth, entering negative thoughts into your journal stunts that growth entirely. So let's say you have a negative thought. I've had them multiple times. You're likely going to have them too in trading. When you have this negative thought, instead of entering into your journal something like, I'm an idiot because I risked more than what my model allowed for, I don't deserve to be a trader. Instead of inputting that into your journal, make an entry like this. My equity curve took a big hit from risking more than what my model allowed for. I now have first hand experience on why I don't go outside my risk parameters. I am now a better trader because I can recall this experience in future trades. Do you remember my missile analogy back in trading month number 1 review? A guided missile constantly deviates off course and then calibrates itself to its target. Don't crash yourself prematurely by filling your journal with negative thinking. Instead, recognize the mistakes that you make, figure out how to fix them, and then move on. Those were the 2 rules. Follow those rules, and your trading journal will be the most beneficial resource that you have ever used. Let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of this tutorial now. We're going to talk about how to make your own trading journal. And in fact, let's actually be more specific. We're now making what's called a trading notebook. What is a notebook in Microsoft OneNote? Well, it's going to be your container for everything trading related that you make. A notebook in Microsoft OneNote is very similar to a notebook that you would have in person, a physical notebook. It's going to contain everything about a certain subject matter in your life. So for myself, I actually use 3 different notebooks pretty consistently in my life. I've got not only my trading journal or my trading notebook, I've also got an accounting notebook and a hobbies notebook. So none of these 3 really interact with one another. In fact, I would say that they don't interact at all with one another. So therefore, they have their own notebooks themselves. So now you've got your trading notebook. Let's fill it up with some trading contents. And it all starts with section groups. These are going to be your new best friends when it comes to journaling. So let's actually get started. Let's see what a section group actually is. We're going to go into our trading notebook, and you'll see that I have 7 of those bad boys right here. These are section groups. What the heck is a section group? I want you to think of them like branches on a tree. Okay? Your tree or your foundation is going to be the trading notebook itself. And then the section groups are going to be branches from said tree. So all of these section groups are related to trading in some form or another, but they all have different characteristics from one another that require them to have their own branch or their own section group. So, for example, the core mentorship. This was ICT's private mentorship, which I was a part of. We all got put into charter membership, and so now all the core mentorship content is now on YouTube for free, which is fantastic for you guys. I'm pumped that you guys get a chance to access the core mentorship. I'm going to do some videos on how I would approach it, but that's in the future. I digress right now. But core mentorship, just know that it's all about ICT learning. It's all about me learning from videos, right? So it's definitely trading related. It is different than my journal section group. My journal section group is my own personal price engagements with price action. So anytime I've ever entered price, if I've ever studied price, if I've ever back test or forward test or what have you, it's all in my personal journal. Obviously, it's connected to trading, so it gets its own section group, but it's not related to core mentorship content where I was doing a lot of video learning. There's no video learning in my personal journal. Okay, it's all me just engaging price action. Same with the YouTube section group. Obviously, my YouTube channel is based on trading, but it's different than my personal journal, and it's different than my core mentorship. So it gets its own branch or section group. Okay? So that's how I want you to think of section groups. Learn to love them. They're fantastic. You might be actually wondering right now, well, if they're so fantastic, why do you only have 7 of them? Right? You said you've been doing this for 6 years. Well, I'm about to show you a lot more. And it might get a little confusing here. So just try to follow. And then if you have any questions at all, feel free to go in the comment section and let me know. But let's go into the section groups themselves. I'm going to teach you how to make a journal section group, your own personal section group for journaling. And again, this is all your personal engagements with price action. Anytime you're in the charts themselves, you're going to put those entries into your personal journal. Okay. So once I click it, all of a sudden I've got all these different section groups appearing. And it's starting to get a little busy, right? And the whole point of this part of the tutorial is going to be to show you how you can stay organized and efficient with your trading journal. Okay. So within this section group are a whole bunch of other section groups. Okay. How do I know that these are section groups? It's because of this arrow and this arrow and this arrow, right? Anytime there's an arrow, there's going to be a section group. We're going to focus for this tutorial on these section groups right here. So the C's, the F's, and the S's. Okay. When it comes to section groups, I highly recommend you figure out a naming structure. Feel free to copy mine. All right. You want to be able to find everything in your journal very quickly and efficiently. And being able to have a proper naming structure to find everything makes things so much better. Trust me on this. I'm going to show you why right now. So, for example, C-2020, that stands for Commodities 2020. So, anytime in 2020 that I talked about commodities or I studied commodities at all, it's within this section group. Anytime I talked about the foreign exchange market in 2021, it was in this section group. Anytime I talked about stocks and bonds in 2020, it's in this section group. All right. Again, they're branches from one another. So, tree, a branch, which is my personal journal, all of these in here is related to my price engagements in one way or another. But specifically, these are focused on commodities. These are focused on foreign exchange. These are focused on stocks. Okay. So you can start seeing how things can get really organized really nicely here if you follow a proper naming structure. So C for commodities, F for Forex, S for stocks and bonds. I recommend you split out section groups based on asset classes. The reason for that is that you might not be focused on other asset classes right now, but in the future you will be. And you're going to find that intermarket analysis is fantastic for figuring out where the higher time frames are going to go. And so you want to be able to study all the different types of asset classes that you can get your hands on. And by splitting them up, you're going to easily find, oh, I made commodities entries in here. Oh, I made foreign exchange entries in here, right? They don't get convoluted with one another, and you can easily find what you're looking for this way. So for me, for example, I do a lot of day trading in Forex, so I'm going to have a ton more entries in the foreign exchange market. For commodities, I take more position trades, so I'm going to have less frequent entries and journal entries, I mean, in this section group, right? So keeps things a lot more organized this way. So what I recommend you do is separate by asset class and then separate by year. And the reason why I separate by year is simple. I have a lot of sections, which we'll talk about here very soon, within each one of these section groups. And so if I can split them out by year, I don't have a ton of sections convoluting one another. It makes things a lot more organized by splitting them out by year. So I recommend you follow this. Feel free to come up with your own if that's what you want to do. But that's how I use section groups. And one more time, just so we're clear, everything relates back to trading. All of this stuff is related back to trading. More specifically, they're related to my personal journal section. These aren't related to my core mentorship. These are related to my own personal journaling. So that's how I see section groups, and learn to love them. If you can become best friends with them, you'll be able to navigate your journal so quickly. And this is where the benefits of an electronic journal start to greatly outweigh the benefits of a physical journal. The next component to your trading notebook hierarchy are sections. And sections are much simpler to understand than section groups, in my opinion, especially in your personal journal section group. So all sections are the containers for your actual entries themselves, and they're these colorful tabs that you see right here. Your section group groups all of these sections that are within it, right? It makes a lot of sense there. Only thing you really need to consider here with sections is just your naming structure again and what kind of entries you're going to be putting in them. So in my personal journal, um, really the only thing that I really recommend is having your month on there so you can know what month you made all your journal entries in. So again, within the sections, going to contain all my entries that took place related to the foreign exchange market in January 2021, right? So it's a container for all that. If I want to go to February, you can see everything, all my entries made in February within my foreign exchange 2021 section group. So I like to split them out by month. Feel free to do your own thing, but I think monthly is very good. Again, if I had just one section for all my entries, things would get crowded very quickly. So I think it's very beneficial to split out by month. These numbers here, all those are all my sections that I've made for that asset class. Okay, so for example, like for Forex 2017, I didn't put anything in there because I was a noob. I didn't put any numbers in front of my journal there. But 2018, I clued in. It's like, okay, it might be smart for me to actually start putting numbers in here. And so, yeah, it's just all the sections in order that I've done over the years, right? So, and the only reason why I do that is because sometimes you can lose sections, like just like by like moving a section somewhere by accident. You might accidentally delete a section. It's really easy for me to just slot them right back into the respective section group if I number them. So I don't think it's super important, but you can if you want. It's very easy to do. And yeah, I recommend definitely putting them by months. So yeah, that's how I use sections. Finally, we are at the component of your trading journal where all the magic actually happens, and that comes by way of journal entries. Journal entries are individual pages that you're putting into your notebook. And specifically for this example, all of these entries that I have in here are related to the foreign exchange market that I made in January 2021. So any sort of personal study, any sort of thoughts related to my development as a trader, or actual price engagements themselves, all of those entries are put into this section right here. All right. This is the part of your trading journal where things are going to become unique to you. What I'm going to do for this tutorial is I'm going to give you some examples of entry types that you may want to put into your own journal. But as you develop as a trader, you're going to want to make your own entries. You're going to determine what you're going to put into your own personal trading journal. These are ideally entries that can help you become a better trader, right? But they don't have to copy exactly what I'm doing. They're going to be different to whatever you think your specific needs are to become a better trader. It all starts with the naming structure, all right? These have evolved for me over the years, but the foundation for the naming structure has stayed the same. It's very similar to my section groups. We're going to have the type of journal entry in front, followed by a hyphen, and then the date of said journal entry. So in January 2021, I only had a few different types of journal entry types that I would use. So, for example, I had my E here, which stands for entry. I have some numbers here, which are related to the core mentorship. And then I had CA, which stands for current analysis, which is me engaging the market. So let's go over those quickly. I'm not actually going to click into any of these entries because what's one of the rules of our trading notebook? It's for our eyes only. We don't share these with anybody else. I'm going to share you my to-do list because I think it's very important as a trader and specifically for your journaling to have a to-do list. And there's nothing in here that's too personal to me and myself as a trader. But what I'll do is I'll make examples of these type of entries, but I'm not actually going to show you previous entries that I've made here. So the first journal entry type that we're going to go over is called E-date, otherwise known for me entry dash January 2nd in this case, right? And what these entries are all about are my personal thoughts related to trading that I want to get down into writing. I want to be able to see my thoughts at that time in my life related to trading. So these could be what is going on in my life that is affecting my trading, right? Where do I see myself as a trader going forward? How am I growing? Are there certain characteristics that I'm learning about myself or the markets that don't really involve any charts? That's a big one. These ones don't involve any sort of like charts or screenshots of any kind. These are just kind of like personal. Think of like your own personal journal that you might have, like a diary or something like that. And you just kind of want to put those thoughts into actual writing. What I'm really excited about, or this is going to tell me a story. As I become a professional trader, what I'm looking forward to is in a few years of my life, maybe going back down to all these different entries that I've made. And these are going to tell a story about, okay, what was I doing during this time? What was my life like during this time? Right? What was my life? What was going on in my life at January 2nd, 2021 that affected me as a trader? How did I get to where I am today? And so these are all going to be really nice reminders of how I got to where I am. And they're nice reflection tools as well in the short term. So um, maybe I'll be at like January 10th or something like that. Or let's say January 11th is this case. And I'll be like, okay, a week ago, I was focused on this. January 2nd. Let's see what I was focused on. Am I still staying on that roadmap? Am I still doing the things that I wanted to sort of characteristics that I wanted to develop that I've identified in January 2nd? Am I still following them 9 days later? Right. So that's how I use these entries. I guess I could have picked a better name for it, but that's just what worked for me. Feel free to change it for you. So that's that kind of entry type. The next one that I'll show here are the number entries, and these are related to the core mentorship specifically. So these are YouTube. On YouTube you can get the core mentorship now I was discussing earlier from ICT, and so these are related to the actual videos from the core mentorship, right? So my actual study of the module 12, for example, took place in this section over here, which I'll show later on. My individual engagement of the components I've learned from module 12 are placed into here. So for example, in video 12.1, I learned some specific components related to the market that I would have logged in here. This is me actually applying those components and me actually going into the charts myself and learning about those components and using them and seeing, okay, am I using them properly? How do they actually work in the grand scheme of things? How does this tool fit in this toolbox for me? Do I like this tool? So that's what all of these are right here. All these numbers are related to items or videos and notes that I took related to module 12 content. Okay. And then finally, I've got CA, which is my continued analysis or current analysis. And what these are actually my price engagements with trading. So these contain a lot of charts, a lot of me framing trade ideas and engaging price action in there. I'm not studying specific tools in here. I'm studying here's how I'm actually applying myself for an actual trade going forward. Okay. So in here, I probably framed a trade setup. Here, I probably framed a trade setup. Maybe here, I actually engaged a trade setup. So I generally have a lot more CAs than anything else because this is where you're actually engaging price action. All right, so those are the kind of journal entries that I have. They've evolved over time. I've definitely got a lot more in 2022 than I did in 2021, but these are going to be personal to you. They're going to change. One entry type that I recommend you always have every single month, regardless of your personality or how you want to function your journal, is a to-do entry. You're going to have one of these every single month. And what a to-do entry is all about, it's going to be your hub for anything trading related. If you want to study price action, you're going to use a to-do entry. So obviously this page is going to be blank when you first create it. But anytime you have an idea of something that you think will help your trading development, something that you want to work on, something that you want to study, maybe ICT gives you homework, maybe you independently have determined that if you learn this concept, or if you study more on this concept, you will become a better trader. Throw it into your to-do list, right? So for example, I determined back in November 2nd, 2020, that it would be important for me to reread CanSlim, which is a component, a concept related to the book How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill. All right, so I determined back in November 2nd that it would be beneficial for me to reread CanSlim. It would also be beneficial for me to learn about undervalued options and implied volatility. So, because I didn't have time right at that moment to study it, but I realized it was an important component for me to learn, I threw it into my to do list. And then eventually, sometime in January, I actually finished them and I checked them off. These ones I didn't finish. I didn't actually do my November 14th weekly review homework. Bad, bad S tier trader. Always do your homework related to trading. But that's another one that I could put into my journal here. And here's a task that I could go on a go forward basis. I know what I could work on. So if I enter into my journal and say today's a study day, what do I want to work on? I'm going to look for these to dos that I've accumulated over time, and I'm going to start working on them. All right. So let's actually do an example right now. Let's do um, how this starts is you're going to put a kind of a title or the date of it. So today, for example, is October 18th, 2022. And then I'll put up here as I'll click this to do checkbox and I'll say finish my trading journal video. Right. And then once I finish it, I'm going to check it off. And just like that, my task is done. But if I don't have it checked off, let's say I look at this in the future, I could say, hey, what are things that I want to work on as a trader right now? Oh, hey, I need to finish my trading journal video. That's going to help me become a better trader. Then I know I can work on this. That's the whole point of a to-do list. And then what'll happen is that you'll rotate these forward every single month. So once you finish your month and you start a new section, you're going to roll them forward into the following month. So in this case, I just copy and pasted my to-do list from January over to February. But now I know going forward, hey, I still have to get these November 9th entries done. I still have to work on them. That's how I use my to-do list, and I strongly recommend that you do it yourself. One more thing is just I highlight more priority-based tasks that I find for myself that are important. So for example, in January, I determined that focusing on my price action model plan and focusing on studying stocks for the February seasonal tendency, those were the most important tasks in my entire to-do list. So if I hop into my to-do list, I'm looking at all the potential tasks that I can do to become a better trader. If I highlight them, I've obviously prioritized them that, hey, I need to get these ones done first compared to anything else. So those are my to-do entries, and I strongly recommend that you use them. Now let's actually go into an example. How can we set up uh how can we get to this part of our notebook, right? How do we get to this to do section? And maybe let's make a couple actual journal entries here, okay? So what we're going to do is in this pane here, where all of my 7 section groups are underneath my notebook, all of these branches, I'm going to find an empty spot and I'm going to right click new section group. And a new section group will appear, and it appears underneath my journal section group because it was the last one that I had highlighted. So to move it, all we have to do is click it and we drag it up and we just drag it right to the top. And now you'll see that new section group appears right here as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I clicked it and I'm going to right click on new section group and name this to journal number 2. Maybe you just do regular journal because you probably only have one right now. And you'll see that it automatically alphabetizes, it goes in alphabetical order with your section groups. So that's pretty neat. Now, if I open my journal, realize that there's nothing actually in here. So what we'll do is we'll highlight it, and we're going to right click again and make another section group. You'll see that it appears underneath journal number 2. So let's focus on the foreign exchange market today for this tutorial. So what I'll do is I'll do F-2022. And now I've got a section group very similar to mine here, F2022. This is going to contain all my foreign exchange entries that I made in 2022. Next, I'm going to add a section, which I just clicked right down there. This is going to appear wherever you last highlighted. And in this case, we're going to do, because it's my first section in this asset class, I'm going to type in 1, and then I'm going to type in October because it is October. And now any sort of entry that I have in this foreign exchange 2022, any sort of October entry is going to be in here. All right. So now what I'll do is we're going to start by making a to-do list. Just like that. Click the title. And now we've got a to-do list. So let's make a couple to-dos. We're going to name October 18th, and we'll do task number 1. I just hit enter, and it automatically appears a new to-do checkbox appears. Task number 2, so on and so forth, right? Okay, we can refine these later on, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes here. But we're going to refine these even further and make them even more specific. Better than what I showed in 2021 example, okay? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make let's say a price engagement entry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click add page, and I'm going to type in current analysis October 18th. And so now on a go forward basis, I can look at my pane here and say, hey, what was I doing on October 18th related to the actual study of my markets? I just have to click this button here. I think that's another point here I just kind of want to quickly touch up on. Let's go back into this. If I go in here, the naming structure again, I can easily find what I was focusing on that day, right? So let's say I wanted to find things related to me studying module 12. It'd be very difficult for me to actually find what I did if I just had the dates of the journal entries. So by having this front category listing here, the 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, I can easily find, hey, this is actually me working on module 12 components, right? So hopefully that makes sense. That's the importance of the naming structure. So, all right, let's go back to our journal here. So this example is going to be me studying the foreign exchange market. So specifically, let's start off with the dollar index. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in USD, and it's going to be the chart that I'm using, the time frame. So I don't know. Let's click 4-hour chart, and we'll see I'm on the US dollar 4-hour chart. So what I'll do is I'll type in USD H4, and now I'm going to make inferences related to the market here. So let's just do this quickly. I see sell side here. I see a breaker here. Probably the better one to pick. Got a breaker. Bear with me. Right there. All right, sounds good to me. We got a breaker. One more. Let's do, I see this here. This is an IO Fed. Okay, so I've made these inferences in my chart here related to the dollar index on a 4-hour chart, right? So what I'll do now is I'll take a screenshot of this chart, right? So on Windows, I'm going to hold down the Windows key, Shift S. And now I can take a screenshot. Put it into my trading journal by hitting Control V. And now I've got this journal entry, or this chart inside of my journal entry, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make inferences based off of my chart that I've just made here. So, for example, sell side liquidity below, price traded lower from the bearish breaker, price then made an IO Fed. Just something like that. So that's how I work on this current analysis related to, in this case, the US dollar. And then what I'll do, let's say I want to go into a lower time frame from here. I want to do more precise entries or study more in depth here. And what I'll do is, okay, what's going on here? Well, I see sell side liquidity here. See that. I see what else we got going on. This is also a breaker here. Just like that. And now what I'll do is, I'll take a screenshot. And I'll type in H1 because it's an hourly chart. And now I've got this here. And I'll make more inferences. So I'll be like, okay, price ran sell side liquidity and continued lower. Price retraced into an H1 breaker. So that's kind of how I actually use my current analysis entries here, right? I take screenshots, I make inferences on them. So, okay, one thing, let's continue on with this. So because these entries here are related to actual me engaging the market in some form or another, maybe I'm backtesting, maybe I'm actually doing a trade. One thing that I'll often do, which OneNote provides, is math. It'll actually do formulas on here. So if I type in, for example, 1 plus 1 and I hit equals, 2 automatically formulates. Let's do something more complex. Let's say this 3 equals, it just automatically comes up. This math component of journaling is fantastic. So what I'll do for current entries or for current analysis, one thing that I'll do all the time is I'll frame risk and reward. So let's say I decide I was going to enter on this bearish breaker right here. So I'll find a price level here. So in this case, it was 113.50. So I'll say entry at 113.50. We don't actually trade the dollar index, just so we know. I'm just doing this for an example. And then my stop loss is going to be above the nearest swing high. So let's do right here. Okay. Oh my God. We got the stop loss here. Let's put this there at 114.80. And then we're targeting that sell side liquidity down here, 109.30. Take profit at 109.30. So what I can do here now is, good thing about windows is you can split them in half like this. Okay. And then I'll say, okay, what's my stop loss here? My stop loss I determined was at 114.80. And then my take profit was at 109.30. And so what I can do here is I can frame my risk. So risk equals my 114.80 minus my entry at 113.50. And I have 130 pips worth of stop loss. So what I can do is I can just multiply that by 100. I multiply this by 100, and I've got 130 pips worth of stop loss, right? Then I'll frame my take profit as well. So then I'll go take profit equals entry minus my take profit, 109.30, and I got 420 pips worth of potential take profit that I can take here. So my risk to reward then, or my reward to risk, is going to be 420 divided by 130, and I've got 3-to-1 odds on this trade, just like that. And I use this all the time, even for just like studying and backtesting price. It's really good for figuring out, seeing your entries and seeing how much room you have to take your trades. What kind of risk to reward ratio do you have? So what else do I do in my other entries journal here that I like? I think that's pretty much it. My current analysis pretty much just looks like this. and I just constantly make inferences. I'll frame risk to reward on these as well, and we'll see how price pans out. So that's how I do this type of entry. Next thing we're going to do here is my actual entry. So my thought process is one. So we'll say October 18th, 2022. So all I did here was I added a page, and now I've got a new entry that I can make here. So now I'll say something like this. Maybe I'll put in life update. I have been very busy with my CPA, which is an accounting thing. I have recently finished my CFE and now have lots of time to trade. So that those are thoughts that I have in my head that I'm putting down into writing. Now I want to focus on my YouTube channel. So now in the future, I can go back to this entry and say, hey, what was I working on? What kind of things did I actually want to work on here? And then I can put it into I can look at my entry on October 18th and say, hey, this is my thought process related to my trading here. And then what I can do here is, because I made this thought, let's say now I actually want to work on my YouTube channel, I can go back up to my to-do list and I could say, I can make a new task here and say, work on YouTube channel. And specifically, I could do finish my trading journal video. So that's how those journal entries work right there. I could go over the core mentorship one, but it's pretty much the same as this. But now we're going to actually start to go really in depth and do some really cool things for yourself. So what I want you to do now in your journal is you're going to make a new section. Actually, before we actually do that new section, we're going to do a new section group. We're going to throw it into journal number 2, and we're going to title this concepts and tools. So now we have a section group specifically related to concepts and tools. And we're going to add a section. Okay. And let's do this section known as, let's say A to, I don't know, let's say L. Any concept now that we have related to that starts with an A to an L is going to land in this area. This is what I would like you to do. And this is what I wish I did going prior. And I'm starting to do it now, but it would have been great to do if I started doing this earlier on. So what I would do here is I'm going to do a new page. So we have this untitled page that automatically appears. And we're going to start this by saying IOFED. So this is a concept that ICT teaches. One of his many tools that he uses is called IOFED, Institutional
Entry Drill.
Institutional Order Flow Entry Drill. Anytime that I use an IOFED going forward, anytime I learn about an IOFED going forward, I'm going to funnel it back into this entry here. So I'm going to split this into 2 parts. I'm going to bold it. And I'm going to say examples. And I'm going to do study. Maybe I'll do study ahead of example. Very cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find examples of an IOFED. Okay. So let's one more time, we're going to go back into our foreign exchange journal here. I'm going to add a section, or sorry, not a section, my bad. I'm going to add a new page, and I'm going to title this IOFED
October 18th.
So this is going to be me studying specifically institutional order flow entry drills. Okay, so now let's find some IOFEDs in here. So we'll go into a smaller time frame. Okay. There's an IOFED right there. Okay, cool. There's an IOFED. Here's another one. Did I not change this to blue? Don't mind me. Okay, there's an IOFED. There's another IOFED we got here. Nothing really sticks out to me for another IOFED here just yet. So
that works for me for now. So we got two of them right here. We got two IOFEDs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot of this. We're going to throw it into our IOFED study. We're going to make a couple inferences related to it. So we're going to say price moved strongly bullish after the first IOFED. After a deep retracement and run on sell side liquidity, price formed another IOFED. This IOFED was very bullish as well. Okay, so we made these inferences. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to highlight all of this. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to do copy link to paragraph. Cool. So I just copied this whole thing to my computer. And then I'm going to go into this concept and tools area here and I'm going to paste it. Right? And now what I can do here is I can type 1. Maybe actually I'll just delete all that and just have this one thing here. And so now in the future, let's say I want to study IOFEDs or I want to refer to times in my life where I've used IOFEDs. What I can do now is I can click on this link and it's going to take me right into a time
Or where I studied IOFEDs and can make references to them.
do this for all the tools. This would be fantastic. And I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. So this is something that I really think will be important as you go forward. So all you have to do in the future now, like I said, is let's say you haven't touched IOFEDs in a while. You've forgotten what an IOFED is, right? What we can do now is you can go into this concept and tools section group. You can go into this section and find IOFED. And then in there, you can see study, which we'll talk about later on.
In the core mentorship.
And then we can also see examples of us actually using it. So then again, we just click it and all of a sudden we have this fantastic example
Of us using IOFEDs.
Let's just do one more quick one just to see how important it is. So we can say liquidity pools. So that could be another one. So again, we can do study, we can do examples, and then we'll make a new page here and we'll call these liquidity pools, October 18th. And then all I have to do here is find a liquidity pool that was ran. So like right here, for example, let me make this full screen. For example here, there's a time where liquidity pools got ran. Let me just quickly make this all fancy. Right, there's a time liquidity pools got ran. And one more right here. Sell side liquidity got ran right there. Okay, so now what we can do is I can take a screenshot of this. Go back into my journal. I can put this link in here or this chart in here. Make a couple inferences. Price quickly ran buy side liquidity before running lower. Fix that. And then we've got price ultimately targeted the sell side liquidity after running
The buy side liquidity.
And then again, what I'll do is I'll just click the picture this time, right click, copy link to paragraph, throw it into my concepts and tools. Here's an example. I'm going to hit 1, Control V. Just kidding. Paste. Why do you hate me? There it is. Okay. And now in the future, like I said, now what we can do is we can be on this to-do list right here. We go into our concept and tools. All of a sudden I click on this. And here's an example of me using liquidity pools. So that's something I highly recommend that you do going forward. Sorry if that took a little longer to talk about than I was hoping for, but honestly, I think it's a very, very good tool that you can use for organization going forward as well. So that's how I use entries generally. And like I said, they'll evolve over time for yourself. Feel free to do what you want with them. But if you kind of follow this format for journal entries in your personal journal specifically, I think you're going to have a great time trying to find anything and everything that you've ever wanted to do related to your journaling. The next section group that we're going to focus on relates to the core mentorship. And specifically, this is the section group where you watch videos, you learn ideas from your mentor, and you take notes on the videos and put them into your journal. So, this can work for any sort of mentor. I've done this specifically, obviously, for ICT. However, obviously, you can do this for any sort of mentor you have. I'm going to give you a basic foundation of how this section group up here works. So you can call this whatever you want. I did the core mentorship. All my core mentorship teachings are within this section group here. So I opened that up. And just like my personal journal, I've got a couple different section groups that branch off. Miscellaneous just contains a couple different series and key clips, which I'll talk about here soon, that ICT has done while I was in the core mentorship. So things like he did on YouTube, I threw them in here. Before I was in the mentorship, I watched all of ICT's series. So they're all listed in here on my notes. And then I've also got the actual modules, which one more time you can get for free on YouTube right now, which is just beautiful. So all my actual core mentorship module teachings are in here. You might be wondering where my charter mentorship stuff is, and it's hidden because I don't want to share that. So anyway, let's actually talk about modules right now. And specifically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you can take notes on videos and how you best effectively organize them within your training journal. Let's say, for an example, we are going to do the core mentorship on YouTube, right? That's all of this stuff right here. So I have my core mentorship section group. It branches into my modules, which is within the core mentorship. And then we actually have the sections which are split in between each module. So in the core mentorship, there are 12 different modules, right? So currently at this time of speaking, on October 18th, ICT has put 10 modules out on YouTube. I'm sure all 12 are coming. So let's go into module 10. We'll kind of see what's going on here. So then after the sections, they're split into actual entries. And these entries are going to be specific videos related to that module. So within this module 10, there are a whole bunch of different videos that actually come out, okay? So they're all split up into different entries. And so you might be wondering, well, how did I get this section group within this section? Well, all you have to do there is you just have to highlight a bunch of them, a bunch of entries that you've done, and then you can make subpages. So you can promote them, so you can move them back up, or you can make a new subpage and then they get lower into the status. So I could do something like this, for example. I can make a new subpage, and then the hierarchy continues. So, and then I'm pretty sure this is infinite. So you can do as many subgroups as you possibly want. I don't like having too many. But anyway, this is how I have my module set up. I've got them split up into the different video types. So this module is kind of weird because there are 4 different kind of sections that it goes into. Usually there's just like 8 lessons that he'll have here. But in this case, because we're on module 10 in real life, we'll just go over this one. I've got not only notes on the videos, but I've also got notes on the overall grand scheme of this module, right? What are questions that I have related to the module? Those are in here. And then there's like a separate bonus video that I'm sure he'll release as well. So anyway, let's get into how I actually take notes into a video. All right, so let's make an example here. So let me add a page right here. And I pulled up an example on YouTube here. So we've got the ICT mentorship content month 10 commitment to traders. Okay, so we're going to add this one here. We're going to say, what lesson was this? This was month 10. I don't know which one it was. Commitment of traders 2.1. So 2.1 commitment of traders. Excellent. So how I go about doing this and how I recommend that you go about taking notes in these videos is there. First of all, you can link videos directly into your notebook. Somehow ICT has made it that you can copy video URL and you can throw it into your YouTube or into your OneNote, and the video itself will actually pop up. It doesn't in this case. ICT has somehow made it, I'm not sure how, where the video won't actually pop up. So we'll use my video as an example. If I copy this video URL, you'll see that I could paste it. And then all of a sudden this video pops up. And then I can click play. And you'll see that eventually the video is going to pop up here. And I can watch the video right inside of OneNote, which is fantastic. I can even full screen it. Just kidding. Can't actually full screen it right now. But you get the idea. So for ICT's videos, what I would recommend that you do is copy the links to the video right at the top so that you know that this entry relates to this specific video. So I can click it, and then all of a sudden this video will appear. Let me exit out before it starts playing. Okay, so that's how I would go about doing this. And then what I'll do is I'll have them side by side like this, my personal journal or my notebook here next to the video. And then we'd start watching it, right? So maybe we go up to a certain spot here. Maybe we like this part here. Okay, we've learned about the net trader's position line chart. So what I do is I'm going to screenshot it. I'm going to throw it into here. And then he's going to be speaking on things. And so I'm going to make notes on it. So he might say something like, he found this on barchart.com. He might be saying something like, we follow the commercial traders. Commercial traders are correct on reversals, while large traders are correct during trends. Okay, so you might be saying something like that in the video, right? So we make these notes and they relate back to this specific slide. And then what I would do from there is I would right click and I would copy the video at the current time. So then I can go like this. Boom. And just like that, in the future, if I want to learn specifically about this chart, if I made some notes here and I want to refer specifically at this time, I can click this link now and it'll take me directly to that time. So let me actually just do that quickly. And boom, just like that. I'm 275 seconds into the video. So that is really neat. Okay. So that's how I would do the timestamps. And then to go even further on this, do you remember this concepts and tools area that we made earlier, part of our journal, right? What I can do is let me copy this. I'm going to go right click it. I'm going to say copy link to paragraph. I'm going to go into my concept and tools. I'm going to add commitment. Oh, let me spell it properly. Of traders. What did I say earlier? Study and examples. Study examples. And then what I would do here is I would say 2.1. I would actually do this. I would do module 10.2.1 commitment of traders, and then video, or this would be the actual journal entry. So journal entry. And then I could actually just click on it. And it's going to take me right to there, right to that, me learning the commitment of traders. And everything that I've ever wanted to learn about the commitment of traders, I can find by clicking that link. So that's how I would use this. And I didn't use this as I was learning because I didn't know that this feature existed. But now, as I've developed in my journal, I highly recommend you doing this because it's such an easy way to figure out all the concepts and tools that ICT has. You can easily click them and move to that specific journal entry and find things so much easier. And then what we could do, if we want to go even further, is we go back to our personal journal, we go to our to-do list, and we'll say We'll click this and we'll say study commitment of traders. And what I can do here is I can actually Control V that link where my homework came from. And so now on my to-do list, I could like say, okay, study commitment traders. Okay, what exactly do I want to study here? I'll click this link. It's going to take me to this page that we just made. And I'm going to specifically study are commercial traders actually correct on reversals while large traders are correct during trends? Is that actually true? Here's how I'm actually going to study it. So that's really neat. And I think that's a really important tool within OneNote that you can use to help with your journal. One more thing to cover regarding learning and watching videos and taking notes on them is you might watch a video multiple times. And so when I do actual like videos and studying, I've got lots of notes. I got lots of screenshots. If I'm going to do a second run through of my notes, what I want to do actually is I want to do a second watch and I don't want to have to paste them all again. So what I'll do is I'll just add a couple lines underneath my last watch. I'll date when I did my last time watching that specific segment. And then I'll make notes on things that I didn't actually pick up the first time right underneath. And it makes things a lot more organized this way. So I can see, and I know that all my notes that I've taken on here, all these notes that I had on my second watch, they weren't included in my first watch. So I know that I can be more refined likely in my second watch. I picked up on things that I missed the first time around. So that's how I would do second watches. And you can do this for any type of video that you've got, right? So maybe you have an ST or trader section, section group in your journal. Maybe you have the pre-mentorship stuff that you can throw in there as well. So I highly recommend doing all that. One more section group that I would, or sorry, section that I would recommend having in your core mentorship journal. Specifically, what we're going to talk about are clips. So we're going to just make a clip right now. Okay. I'm not actually going to show you some clips in here because they include some weekly commentary stuff that I don't want people seeing. What I'm going to do here is in this module, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to actually add a new section. So you can add a new section down here if it's highlighted, or you can just right click it. And I'm going to say clips right here. So let's say ICT says something really inspirational, or your mentor in general just says something really inspirational. They might say something inspirational about taking losses. Okay, maybe you've taken a few losses of your own and he says something that resonates with you, or she says something that resonates with you regarding losses. So I'm going to call this entry dealing with losses. And then what I'll do is I'll be listening to an ICT lecture, and I don't he won't talk about losses in this specific video. But let's say he did. Let's say at this time he started talking about losses in itself. What I would do is I would copy the video URL at current time. I would date it. So this I would say not date it. I would put the actual name of the lesson on here. So I would say module 10.2.1 commitment of traders. And I have my timestamp in there. And I might say something like ends at, I don't know, 30 minutes. So the reason why I have this clip section is, let's say I start taking a string of losses, right, in the future. If let's say I'm trading and it's just not going so well, the market keeps reversing on me, I'm buying and the market is selling, right? If that's happening, I can easily go into this clip section and click on videos, and specifically certain times of videos where your mentor or ICT talks about handling and dealing with losses. And it makes psychology so much easier to deal with. It's so nice to be able to identify an issue or something that you want to listen about that maybe isn't concept focused, maybe it's more psychology based. You can just go right into this area of your journal and you have links ready to go. So one of my favorite clip sections that I have is just inspiration. And so I do know for a fact one of my favorite ICT tangents that he goes on is in module 5. And it's his 2 hour long video, and he discusses about trading not being gambling. And for whatever reason, that one always excites me. Every time I need a boost in my trading, where he talks about just knowing where the market's going and knowing what the market makers are doing and riding on their coattails, that always inspires me. And so I know that if I need a dose of inspiration, I could click on that link that I have in there, and then it will automatically just start playing for me. It will automatically just start doing that speech, that inspirational speech. And I can listen to it, and right just like that, I am motivated. Instead of having to try to figure out, okay, where did he say that inspirational thing? When did he talk about that? It's all right there in your journal. Some other entries that I'll have in here. He talks about business lots. So we'll talk about business, um, drawing a blank on some other things that he might talk about. But these are just kind of entries that if you think will benefit you in any way, I recommend having this clips section and throw them in here because it will be so nice going forward to help with your psychology. One more component regarding the core mentorship, where I think is just fantastic for you to implement in your own journaling and studying, comes from having two notebooks open at one time. So, the way I use this is I'll have one notebook open regarding the core mentorship videos. So, if let's say I've learned a certain concept in one of these videos, I want to apply them to my own study. Okay, so one notebook will be on the actual video and the notes I've taken on that specific video, and another notebook will be right beside it talking about me applying said concepts into my own trading or into my own study. So let me show you what I mean by this. So let's go into module 4. And lesson 2, we learn about reinforcing liquidity concepts and price delivery. So specifically, we're going to learn about external range liquidity and internal range liquidity. So what I'll do is I'll go into my concept and tools, first of all, and I'm going to make a new concept here. So external and internal range liquidity. So then I'll do the same thing that we always do. So we have study and we've got examples. So before I really start into this, what we're going to do is we're going to click this. We're going to copy link to paragraph. I'm going into here. And now when I click this again, it takes me right to that page. That's fantastic. And then what I'll do here is I'm going to open up a second notebook. Okay. How I can do that, there's two ways to actually do it. The way I do it is I right click the icon and I just open up a second OneNote journal. And all of a sudden, a second notebook will appear here. So I'll split screen them just like this. And now I've got two notebooks. I'm going to go down to my October notebook here. And I'll add a new entry here called external and internal range liquidity, October 18th. And what I'm going to do now is just quickly find an example of external and internal range liquidity. So, okay, so like right here. Right here, we've got external range liquidity. I think it is, right? I'm learning the concept. So external range liquidity. I believe it's external range liquidity. And internal range liquidity, we've got right here, I think. I'm learning the concept. I might not actually know this just yet. So internal range liquidity. Fantastic. So again, screenshot. Save. You can save your chart by hitting Control S, right? So you don't lose it. I'm going to throw it into my personal journaling. And then I'm going to pull up my second notebook here, and I'm going to take my notes, reference my notes to my actual chart that I just did here. So let's say here the current trading range will have buy side liquidity above the range or high. Well, if this was the trading range right here, there's going to be buy side liquidity above it. So therefore, this is external range liquidity. Boom, I nailed it. So I'm learning the concept. Internal range liquidity. When current trading range is likely to remain, fair value gaps will fill in, right? So now this is a fair value gap right there. This is internal range liquidity. It's within the range. So I've got that nailed. So it makes it very easy for me to see and reference what I've learned in the video to my actual study. So now I know I have good examples of me applying external range liquidity and internal range liquidity. So then I'll copy a link to the paragraph, throw it into my concept and tools. Fantastic. And just like that, I can click between the actual lesson, or I can go right back into my actual example that I've done here. So this is much better than the alternative. The alternative would be like, I need to go back into, okay, I've got my picture here, and then I have to click into module 4 and then rate it here. And then I have to go back into my journal entry here. It can be very inefficient, and it can be more inefficient by having two notebooks open at one time. So I highly recommend you implement this feature, especially if you're learning a lot of new concepts. You're going to be using this all the time. Now I'm going to go over a couple miscellaneous sections that I think will be highly beneficial for your own independent trading journal. And so the first one I think is the absolute most important. If you've been with my YouTube channel for a while now, you know that I think recording price action is the absolute best tool that you can have and can use for becoming a professional trader. It is fantastic. I've got tutorials on how to set up a screen recorder as well as how to actually use a screen recorder effectively for trading. So I use the screen recorder in two ways regarding my journal. So I'll actually have my journal entry itself. So my naming structure will be R October 18th, right? So R stands for recording, and I'll do something like this. I'll say this entry relates to me studying my GBP recording in July 2020. Okay. And then I'll actually study my recording. I'll go into my hard drive where I keep my recordings and I'll review and reflect on my trade. And then I have a section specifically related to recordings. And the reason why I do this is it gives me a collection of all the best recordings that I've ever done that I find most beneficial to my trading, and I'll have them all in a certain area. So let me just show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to go into my journal here, and I'm going to go into this recording section group. And so July 2020, I've got that pulled up right here. And you can see now I've put in a screenshot of one of my recordings that I did regarding my trading. And I made a couple notes, brief notes regarding what kind of trade this is. So an IOFED happened during the New York kill zone. I studied this in my personal journal on August 8th, 2020. But the main thing I'm concerned about right now is, first of all, the date. So I know I can go right into my hard drive and be like, if I want to study a good example, if I want to study a really good example of me using an IOFED during the New York kill zone, I can go into my hard drive and look for the British pound on July 13th, 2020. I just look for that recording, and this trade will be on there, and I know where I studied it, so I can review what I studied and compare it to the actual recording. And then what we can do with this is I copy the link to the paragraph. We go into, where was it? Right in here, concept and tools, IOFED, and then we have an example. Maybe we add another section here. We say video examples. And I do that. And now what I can do is if I want to see an actual video example of me using an IOFED, I can click on this here. It's going to take me right to this page. And I know, again, okay, if I want to see an actual example of me using an IOFED, I can go on the British pound recording on my hard drive on July 13th, 2020. And I can look at my accompanying notes on August 8th, 2020. So I think this is just a fantastic navigation tool. Not only are you now you have some study areas of like what is an IOFED, and you have examples of you actually studying it in the charts, but now you have a video example of the tool actually working as well. So I think that's just fantastic. The next miscellaneous section that I recommend you have is a quick lookup section. This section is going to contain trading related journal entries of things that you'll want to quickly reference. So, examples of some of these items that you'll want to put in here include kill zones and seasonal tendencies. So, regarding kill zones, you're probably going to be able to remember the London and New York kill zones. However, you may have a tougher time remembering concepts like the Asian range or the central bank dealers range. This journal entry is even better if you don't live in the Eastern Standard Time like ICT does and where the algorithm bases its time zone off of. If you have to translate these kill zones into your own time zone, having a journal entry that's already done this for you is fantastic. Just quickly open up the entry and you'll know exactly what time frame you need to reference for your kill zone. And regarding seasonal tendencies, well, there's a seasonal tendency for nearly every asset out there. It's going to be very difficult to memorize what seasonal tendencies you should be focused on and which one aligns to what asset class. So, having a journal entry just listing out every single seasonal tendency that you've learned by studying ICT allows you to align your focus every single month. Just open up that journal entry every month and figure out, okay, what asset classes have the seasonal tendency that I could engage in. And then, boom, you know exactly where to focus your attention on. So get yourself an easy to access quick lookup section, and you'll just greatly increase the efficiency of your studying even further.
One final miscellaneous entry that I recommend you create is an inspiration hub. I call this journal entry, What is this for? This will be your go to entry if you ever need a dose of encouragement, motivation, or discipline. Why are you becoming a professional trader? Why are you studying so hard in a profession that is designed to crush you? Visualize these motivations and find similar images of these on the internet. Next, put them in your What is this for journal entry. This journal entry is going to contain a collage of your goals that you want to achieve that trading will be able to offer you. I have a ton of images on my What is this for page, including, for example, a music room. This would be a place where I could play my dream drum set with my musician friends anytime we wanted. If you had the financial freedom to do whatever or have whatever you wanted in life, what would be on this visualization board? It doesn't have to be material items either. Would your time freedom allow you to do things that your current job prohibits you from doing right now? Occasionally look at this board to motivate yourself to keep working hard and aligning yourself to your target of becoming a professional trader.
And finally, we're on the tips and tricks section of this very long, but hopefully very useful how to create a trading journal video. So, to start, we're going to talk about some settings that I like using for my Microsoft OneNote book. However, remember that earlier on in the video, I said that there were two different types, two different versions of Microsoft OneNote right now. This one is done on the PC, and I mentioned earlier too that I like the PC version a little bit better than the MacBook, and I'm about to show you why. So first, let's go into the settings. That can be accessed through these three dots in the top right. We go down to the settings and options. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the color. So you can set this to dark mode or light mode. You can also use system setting, which I go in dark mode for my system. But you cannot actually do this in the MacBook version of Microsoft OneNote, which kind of drives me nuts. It always stays in the light mode version, and I just don't like it as much. If you don't mind it, then definitely use light mode. However, you cannot access dark mode in the MacBook version of OneNote. Okay, and the next thing that I use in here is the default font. And so just to set your default font, you just go down a little bit and you pick all these different fonts here, land on one of them. You can do your default font size as well. This is what I use. I think it's fantastic. So that's pretty much it in terms of settings, what I use. The next thing we're going to talk about is I mentioned earlier in this video that you can link Microsoft um, things like Excel, Word, Power BI, all into your OneNote book itself. So, how we do that is I'm just going to split my screen in half quickly. And I'm going to go into these bottom right sections here, and I've got an example Word document. So, we're just going to drag that in. And you can insert this file in a couple ways. You can upload it to OneDrive and insert the link. I don't recommend doing this because if you don't have a paid version of OneDrive, like if you don't have Microsoft 365, you have a finite amount of room, which I'll talk about here in a second. But you've only got 5 GB, I believe. So you'll want to save most of that for your Microsoft One notebook. So don't do this. Instead, I would recommend doing inserting as an attachment. You can also do it as a printout. We'll insert as an attachment. We'll do this one too. Example spreadsheet, insert as an attachment. Okay, and now what I can do here is I can click it and it opens up Microsoft Word, which is very neat. Same with Excel. This is probably the one you're going to use most of all if you're deciding that you need to backtest and you need to reference a lot of data. You can just put this spreadsheet into your notebook, double click it, it's going to open up, and then what you can have is all the data that you could possibly want right into your one notebook. And then you just split screen them and you can make inferences on data. If there was data in here, you can start making inferences on it. So that's really neat. That's really cool. And the last one that I'll talk about in terms of tips and tricks is you'll want to back up your OneNote, your trading journal. You want to back this up. And the reason why is because if something ever happened to my journal that I've been working on it for the last 6 years and I just couldn't access it anymore via the cloud for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe uh, aliens take over the world or something ridiculous. I want to be able to have access to my notebook. So what you can do is you can go on the OneDrive website, which I mentioned just moments ago. I'm not actually going to do it in this episode, but it's very easy to Google. Just go into your OneDrive, log in with your Microsoft account information, and what you'll do is you'll be able to download your notebook to your hard drive. All right, so you have a physical copy of your notebook, your trading journal. Now, you can also, if you have all the ink in the world that you want, what you can also do is you can print individual pages and you can set the printer and it'll actually print out your journal entries here. So let me pick a one that we've worked on earlier. Maybe this one, maybe this bad boy. And now it'll actually print out everything that you've done. And you can keep this in a binder. So print it out, put it into a binder. This is what ICT does with his screenshots as well. So he actually prints them out and puts it into a binder. That will take up a ton of ink if you have as many charts as I have, but it's an option as well. You don't want to rely on a single access point for your notebook. Maybe Microsoft implodes and you can't get your journal in the cloud anymore. You've got it on your hard drive. You've got printed journals entries into a binder. You have these things for just in case moments. That's the video on how to make a trading journal. If you've learned anything at all from this, please be sure to go along on the like and subscribe buttons. I will be referring to a trading journal lots in future videos, so you'll want to make sure you have at least a foundation for a trading journal ready to go. If you have any questions at all, definitely leave me a comment and I'll get back to you ASAP. On a side note, you may have been wondering, where the heck have I been these last few months? I'm going to have a video on this, on where I've been and where this channel is going shortly. However, long story short is that I wrote my big accounting final, otherwise known as the CFE, recently. And that took up literally all of my free time. That's finally over now. And my main focus in life is now becoming a professional trader. This is the moment that I've been waiting for years. I can't wait to share this all with you. I'm going to have lots of videos on where you can also join me in becoming a professional trader. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope your journal aids you in your trading success as much as mine has for me. Good luck and good trading. If you want to learn how to set up your charts just like a professional trader, click the video on the left. If you want to see the best day trade on YouTube, along with analysis on how I pulled it off, click the video on the right. Please go along with the like and subscribe buttons. Thanks for watching.